Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Shannon Show. So as you saw in that disclaimer, this is part of a series of videos that I'm doing throughout February. I'm posting every day in February, and this is just like an experiment to see where I can go. If I don't get anywhere after February, that's fine. If I do, great. If I don't, also great. This is just an experiment. It's not really to try to catapult me forward or push me forward in any way in the social media sphere. I did a video, like I think on February 2nd. One of my videos is like why I'm not getting into the influencer lifestyle. At the end of the day, I just know that that lifestyle would not be for me. I mentioned in that video, like if I get something out of anything I post to social media, great, but that's not the reason why I do this. Anyway, with all that said, because this is Black History Month, I am doing a Black History Month book tag, and I have my stack of books here. Now, I will say this is something that I could be better with. I do try to read diversely from BIPOC authors about BIPOC stories, even if it's not BIPOC stories specifically. Like, I do try to read from BIPOC authors. And with that, it's not just about like reading outside your comfort zone. Like, you don't have to read outside your comfort zone to read and consume BIPOC authors, to read and consume authors who aren't like you, whether it's Black authors, and whether they're Black authors, Indigenous, people of color authors, or if they're queer authors, whether they're trans or gay. Like, it doesn't matter. We should, like, it's not that huge of a deal to be reading it's not that huge of a deal to be reading outside of our comfort zones to read diversely, but we don't have to read diversely, we don't have to read outside of our comfort zones to read diversely. That is what I was trying to say. We should be reading diversely. We should be reading from BIPOC authors, from queer authors, and just in general from people who do not look like us. I don't think white authors need to be bolstered any more than many are, but and this isn't to like disparage on white authors, but because of how BIPOC creators are just overall treated within different niches and in different sectors of society, like, we need to be putting an emphasis on their voices and on their stories and on their creations. So that is why I am doing this book tag for Black History Month. I am trying to find one for Native American History Month, and then I know there's like Asian and Pacific Islanders Month, so I'm going to try to find one for that as well. I'm going to try to find a book tag to do for that as well during those months. And it's not just during these months that we should be reading diversely. It's all the time of the year. Any month of the year, any day, any week of the year, we should be reading diversely. But I know for me, like, I always try to read diversely. I am always pretty actively trying to look for authors who are BIPOC, who are queer, and like who just don't look like me. So like, I'm always trying to do that, but I know I could be better, and this is kind of like, for me, like kind of like a slap on the wrist in a sense, or like a little check-in to be like, hey, I need to keep doing this. And I was initially thinking like, oh my gosh, I do not have that many Black authors on my shelves. I have a few more than I thought, but again, this is definitely something I could do better. So with all of that said, let's get into these prompts. I do have, actually, before I get into the prompts, I do have a bunch of links down below in the description, and these are just to help both myself look into getting more recommendations both for movies, for TV shows, for books. I love how I just to my books when I'm talking about movies. But just to have more recommendations and to figure out good places to search for them. For recommendations for books written by Black authors, for movies and TV shows centering around Black voices and Black stories. And I mentioned this in my book tag videos. I usually have like a books mentioned series or a books mentioned section where I mention the books that I mention, where I type out the books that I mention in the video. And under quite a few of those prompts, I mentioned leave your recs below in the comments. And please feel free to comment as much as possible with your recommendations for authors by Black authors, for books by Black authors, for stories, whether it's books, movies, or TV shows centering around Black voices, for TV shows and movies centering around Black voices and Black creators. So if you have any recommendations, please leave them down below in the description. And also, one last thing, kind of backtracking a little bit, with posting every day in February, I mentioned this in the disclaimer part, and I also mentioned this down below in the description, but this is not my usual schedule. Like, I do not post every single day just because I know that wouldn't be beneficial for me. And if you're coming at any point during February, just know that this is not my usual schedule. My usual schedule is that I post daily on Fridays at 12 p.m. noon Pacific Standard Time. So any of my Friday videos for February, those were already scheduled before I had this idea. And that is my usual schedule. Like I said, Fridays at noon Pacific time. And that will be starting up again in March. So once the 28th hits and goes by, and once March 1st hits, it will be back to that usual schedule of Fridays at noon Pacific time. So the next video after the 28th will be March 6th, I believe. So now, with all of that said, let's get into these book tags. So the first prompt is 2 books everyone should read during Black History Month, 1 fiction and 1 nonfiction. I'm going to start off with the nonfiction one, just because I don't have a physical copy of it, and that is Black as Fuck, Black AF History by Harriot. And in this one, you're basically going over a history of it's American history told from a Black perspective, which at this point we all just need to read. We all need to read more nonfiction books from the Black perspective, because it does give us a very distinctive perspective that not many people have. So Black AF History by Harriot, I have the audiobook in Libro FM, and that one I'm pretty sure is narrated by the author himself. So the next book, the fiction book, is I have a stack of books that I could recommend, and all of these could fall under the fiction one, the fiction part for this prompt. But the one I'm going to talk about is Almost There by Farrah Rochon, and this is a Disney twisted tale, and you're basically answering the question of what if Tiana had taken a deal with Dr. Facilier. And the thing I like about this one is, one, is my favorite Disney movie. I love Princess and the Frog, and we all love, myself included, all love to kind of gripe about how Tiana was only human for maybe like 5 minutes of her movie, and she was a frog for the rest of it. And that says a lot. And I like the ride. I love the ride, but I honestly don't think the ride gives Tiana much more justice. And this book, even though it's a twisted tale, even though it's a what if and not canon to the actual story, like, I honestly think this gives Tiana a lot more justice than what her movie did. It, like, she has a lot of grit and gumption in the book, in the movie, but I think there was a lot that could have been improved upon in the movie. As much as I love it, there was a lot that could have been improved upon, and I feel like Almost There does improve upon a lot of those things, and it gives us a lot more from that kind of a perspective, and being African American or of African American descent in Louisiana. So this one, I will say it again, I've said it before, I will say it again, you do not need the synopsis for Almost There. You do not need the synopsis for any of the Disney Twisted Tales. Just go based off of the what if question. Do not read the synopsis. The next prompt is Black Booktuber you'd recommend watching and why. And for me, there's two that I discovered somewhat recently within the past half year. It's Peppermint Paperbacks and then Eden Yones. I've linked both of theirs down below in the description, both of their YouTubes, both of their channels down below in the description. And they both have really great insights into what they read. They bring up a lot of very important discussion points when discussing the books and discussing bookish topics. So I think they have a lot of really great insights into the bookish community, the bookish niche, the reading culture, and at the end of the day they have a lot of fantastic insights while also bringing a little bit of humor to it as well. So I really like both of them. Again, their channels are linked down below in the description. And then the next prompt is your favorite book written by a Black author from an African country. This one for me is a slight cop-out because this author, she's of Nigerian descent, but she's not, and she's lived in Nigeria, but it's not like from what I could find, she wasn't born in Nigeria and then emigrated from Nigeria to where she is now. This one is a little bit of a cop-out, but this was the closest one I could find, and I still wanted to talk about it. But leave your recommendations down below for any books that you really like by an African author, by a Black African author. For me, the one I'm doing is The Attic Child by Lola J. And I honestly, this story was so powerful. I would also consider this under the next prompt, your favorite Black classic. At this point, this one is a classic. When was this? Like 2022. It is definitely a modern classic in my opinion. Yeah, published in 2022. And honestly, like, I don't care what anyone says, like, this one's a classic, and then the other ones I'm mentioning I would personally consider classics as well. And it's just this one especially, but this one is going under Black author from Africa. So in The Attic Child, you are following a dual timeline. In the early 1900s, taken from his homeland, 12-year-old Celestine spends most of his time locked away in the attic of a large house by the sea. The only time Celestine isn't bound by the confines of his small space is when he is acting as an unpaid servant to English explorer Sir Richard Babington. I love that last name. I love his last name. It's so fitting for him. As the years pass, he desperately clings to the memories of his family in Africa, even as he struggles to remember his mother's face and sometimes his real name. 1974, Laura, a young orphan girl born into wealth and privilege, finds herself trapped in the same attic. Searching for a ray of light in the darkness of the attic, Laura finds a message carved on the wall, written in an unidentifiable language, and under the floorboards, an old-fashioned pen, a porcelain doll, and a beaded necklace. Providing comfort for her when all hope is lost, these clues will lead her to uncover the secrets of the attic. So, like I said, I would consider this a classic at this point, and a modern classic, and I think everyone needs to read this. Like, chef's kiss, I loved this one so much. It might be because I do really like a good dual timeline if it's done well, and in this it was done really well. But like, this just stands on its own. Each timeline really stands on its own and could have been its own book, but I think it works so perfectly in one book as a dual timeline. The next prompt is your favorite Black classic. I'm gonna mention two for this, and just to kind of get out some more recommendations here. The first one is Take My Hand by Dolan Perkins Valdez. It's been a little while since I read this one, but honestly, I really love this, and it's just another perfect book, another amazing book in my opinion. Okay. Is this like... Okay. So, Montgomery, Alabama, 1973. Fresh out of nursing school, Sybil Townsend intends to make a difference, especially in her African American community. At the Montgomery Family Planning Clinic, she hopes to help women shape their destinies to make their own choices for their lives and bodies. But when her first week on the job takes her along a dusty country road to a worn-down one-room cabin, Sybil is shocked to learn that her new patients, Erica and India, are children, just 11 and 13 years old. Neither of the Williams sisters have even kissed a boy, but they are poor and black, and for those handling the family's welfare benefits, that's reason enough to have the girls on birth control. As Sybil grapples with her role, she takes India, Erica, and their family into her heart, until one day she arrives at their door to learn the unthinkable has happened, and nothing will ever be the same for any of them. Decades later, with her daughter grown and a long career in her wake, Dr. Sybil Townsend is ready to retire, to find her peace, and to leave behind the past. But there are people and stories that refuse to be forgotten, that must not be forgotten, because history repeats what we don't remember. Inspired by true events and brimming with hope, Take My Hand is a stirring exploration of accountability and redemption. So I absolutely love this story, and it was just, I feel like it's such a good little window into how hard many women have it, especially if they're black. Like, this one, it's just another powerful read and another great look into that kind of a livelihood that many of us, especially if you're like me and you're pale, like, we don't have to worry about. So, really great read. And then the next book that I'm going to mention for this is Did You Hear About Kitty Carr by Crystal Smith Paul. Now, this one, the way I always kind of describe this one or pitch it to people is that this does what The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo wish it did. Now, it's not to say that The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo was bad or that it didn't do what it wanted to do. It's just this, I think, does it better. And it's from an author who is of that specific ethnicity, because I think Evelyn Hugo was supposed to be a Latina. I think Evelyn Hugo, she was supposed to be Latina or of Latin descent, and she was able to be like more white passing, but Taylor Jenkins Reid is white, and like, again, not that you can't write stories outside of your background and your own history, but it's like it can be a little complicated when you make them the main character and when you put them in that kind of a role and you're not the same ethnicity as them. It can be really tricky if you don't do it right. And in this case, Crystal Smith Paul, I always want to swap Smith and Paul. She is Crystal Smith Paul is a black author, a black voice, and she's writing about a character, Kitty Carr, who is black but white passing and is able to climb the social ladder because of her movies. And it's like, okay, let's see. Let me go over this. Let me just give you the description. When Kitty Carr Tate, a white icon of the silver screen, dies and bequeaths her multi-million-dollar estate to the St. John sisters, three young, wealthy black women, it prompts questions. Lots of questions. A celebrity in her own right, Elise St. John would rather focus on sorting out Kitty's affairs than deal with the press. But what she discovers is in one of Kitty's journals rocks her world harder than any other brewing scandal could. And between a cheating fiance and a fallout from a controversial social media post, there are plenty. The truth behind Kitty's ascent to stardom from her beginnings in the segregated South threatens to expose a web of unexpected family ties, debts owed, and debatable crimes that could, with one pull, unravel the all-American fabric of the St. John sisters and those closest to them. As Elise digs deeper into Kitty's past, she must also turn the lens upon herself, confronting the gifts and burdens of her own choices and the power that the secrets of the dead hold over the living. So, yeah. I mean, I think with the cover, you can kind of assume that she is somewhat white passing, or at the very least, racially ambiguous. And that kind of makes it easy to sort of be white passing. And honestly, like I said, this does what Evelyn Hugo wish it did, and this does it really well. So if you need a book that is like Evelyn Hugo, again, it's not necessarily like a 7 Different Husbands thing, but like this one, much better than Evelyn Hugo in my opinion. The next prompt is a book-to-movie adaptation, a documentary you would recommend watching during Black History Month. I have a couple, and this is also partly as encouragement for me to rewatch these. And both of these are book adaptations of books. The first one is Hidden Figures, and it's the true story of 3 African-American women, Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, and Mary Jackson, whose crucial mathematical and engineering contributions were essential to NASA's success during the early years of the space race. And you see their struggles both with racism and gender discrimination at NASA in the early 1960s, and shows how they overcame the obstacles to achieve these milestones, preparing the astronaut John Glenn for orbit. So that's what Hidden Figures is about, basically. And then the other one is 12 Years a Slave, and it's the true story of Solomon Northup, a free black man from New York who was kidnapped in 1841, sold into slavery, and held in bondage for 12 years in Louisiana before being freed. And it details his life as a free man, his abduction, his experiences of physical and psychological abuse while enduring brutal conditions on plantations. And his memoir is from 1853 of the same name. So that is what 12 Years a Slave is about. And honestly, if you have any other recommendations about movies, TV shows, documentaries, docuseries about Black stories, or centering around Black voices and Black stories, please comment down below in the description. It can be any genre of movie, TV show, or documentary. It does not have to be like one specific genre. So please comment down below with your recommendations. And then the next prompt is on your TBR for Black History Month. For me, I would have to say it is Octavia E. Butler books. Not all of them, just because I know quite a few of her books would probably not be for me, and that I know I probably wouldn't like. But I feel like the Parable duology, I think it's Parable of the Sower, this one, and then Parable of the Talents is the second one. I think this one would be just enough in my normal, usual niche of what I like that I would enjoy this. So this one, Octavia E. Butler books. Again, if you have any other books you'd recommend for Black History Month, comment down below. But in Parable of the Sower, when global climate change and economic crises lead to social chaos in the early 2020s, California becomes full of dangers, from pervasive water shortage to masses of vagabonds who will do anything to live to see another day. 15-year-old Lauren Olamina lives inside a gated community with her preacher father, family, and neighbors, sheltered from the surrounding anarchy. In a society where any vulnerability is a risk, She suffers from hyperempathy, a debilitating sensitivity to others' emotions. Precocious and clear-eyed, Lauren must make her voice heard in order to protect her loved ones from the imminent disasters her small community stubbornly ignores. What begins as a fight for survival soon leads to something much more, the birth of a new faith and a startling vision of human destiny. So this one, I feel like it would just be enough in my alley for like other slight genres and other genres that I like in other media forms. So hopefully I will like this. This is on my TBR as well as the sequel to this. I think that's Parable Talents, like I said, but that is what this one is. Now, the next prompt is the last one, and it is new releases by Black authors. New releases by Black authors, Black writers you are looking forward to most this year. There are a few for me, and I think there's like one. At the time I'm recording this, it's like the very tail end of 2025, and this is just so I can get as many of these videos done before February rolls around. And there's like 2 that are coming out near the end of January, but by the time this video is up, they're already out. The first one is, I'm not going to mention these I will mention them actually. But again, by the time this video is out, it's already out. So the first one I'm looking forward to is Burn Down Master's House. And this is by Clay Kane. And inspired by true, long-buried stories of enslaved people who dared to fight back, a searing portrayal of resistance for readers. For readers of Colson Whitehead, Jesmyn Ward, and Percival Everett. Oh my gosh, I do like Colson Whitehead's author books. I do like his books. I read The Nickel Boys, and then what was the other one? It's the one with the train on the cover, I think. Unless that's The Nickel Boys. I do like his works as well. So, as turmoil simmers within a divided nation, smoke from another blaze begins to rise, sparked by individual acts of resistance among those enslaved across the American South. Their seemingly disparate rebellions fuel a single inferno of injustice, connecting them in ways quiet at times, explosive at others. As these flames rise, so will they. Luke, quick-witted and literate, and Henry, a man with a strong and defiant spirit, forge an remarkable bond at a Virginia plantation called Magnolia Row. Both seek escape from unimaginable cruelty. Ensure as the fires of hell, Luke and Henry will leave their mark, sparking resistance among the lives they touch. One is Josephina, a young, sharp, observant girl who wields silence as her greatest weapon. A witness to Luke and Henry's resilience, she listens, watches, and waits for the moment to make a move. Then there is Charity Butler, her husband, a formerly enslaved man who proved his ferocity as a young boy, standing alongside Josephine. At his encouragement, Charity fights for her freedom in court and wins, only to battle a deeply unjust system designed to destroy the life they built. And finally, there's Nathaniel, who ruthlessly exploits other Black people and mirrors the cruelty of the white men who, like him, are enslavers. A pervasion of the system of slavery, his fragile and contradictory role will become a catalyst of its own. So this one I really want to read, but again, at this point it's out, and hopefully I will enjoy this. It seems like it'll be really heart-wrenching, but hopefully I will enjoy the viewpoint it brings. And then the other one I want to read is With Love from Harlem by Hazel Scott, and this one is coming out on the same day. It looks like they're both coming out on January 27th. Oh, I already read The Queen of Sugar Hill from her. I liked it. It wasn't one of my favorites, but I did like it. Okay. Inspired by a Harlem jazz performer. Inspired by a Harlem jazz performer, Hazel Scott. Okay. So Harlem 1943. At just 23, Hazel Scott is a woman on fire. A jazz prodigy, a glamorous film star, and a fierce advocate for civil rights. She's breaking barriers and refusing to play by the rules. Then Adams Clayton Powell Jr. walks into her life, Harlem's most electrifying preacher turned politician. Adam is as bold and unyielding as Hazel, charismatic, powerful, and married. This kicks off a decades-long relationship that propels them into the center of a political and cultural revolution. As Hazel's star rises, Adam takes the national stage in Congress, and the couple become the toast of the country. But when the affair turns into a marriage, behind the glamorous facade is a battlefield of ego, ambition, and sacrifice. Forced to choose between her music and her family, Hazel must decide what she's willing to lose and what she refuses to give up. Set against the pulsing backdrop of the 20th century Harlem and featuring icons like Billie Holiday, Langston Hughes, and James Baldwin, With Love from Harlem is a sweeping, emotionally charged romantic drama rich with historical detail. So I do like a good historical romance, as long as it's not like super heavy-handed with romance, which it sounds like this won't be. So I don't know if this gets updated regularly. It says, we'll see. Like, I will link this one link down below in the description that I was looking at for 2026 releases by Black authors. I'm not sure if this will update regularly. If it doesn't, let me know and I'll remove it. But that is what I am looking forward to for Black History Month and just in general. And I will let you know what I've enjoyed. So that is the end of this video. Please leave any of your recommendations down below in the comments. I would love to know what you all recommend for Black History Month. And also, I'm tagging anyone and everyone who wants to do this. So leave your answers in a comment. You're on video. Let me know what your answers are. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you all in my next video.